Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the case of Alexandermonson, which tells of an all too familiar story where your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister walks into a police station to never walk out alive. It definitely addresses the elephant in the room. When will it stop? When are we going to do something about it? And for how long are we going to allow them to get away with it? You may want to brush it aside as having nothing to do with you, but the reality is, today it may be someone's daughter, brother, sister. Tomorrow it might be your brother, your sister, or even you. So with that said, let's begin. Alexandermonson was born on 4th January 1984 to Lord Nicholas Monson and Hilary Martin. Lord Nicholas is from London and Hilary Martin from Kenya. Now Alexander, because of his dual citizenship, he spent his childhood between Oxfordshire, Nairobi and Diani. He attended a number of colleges pursuing different courses. He did his A-levels at Dover Brooks in Oxford, and because he took art A-level, he was accepted to Chelsea Arts College. He then moved on to City University London to study psychology, and it's reported that he went to Marlborough College. It's not clear what he did there exactly, but it is there where he was christened Monty. In 2008, Alex moved back to Kenya, moving into his grandparents' house in Diani. Right away, he started working on a project, and that's a bamboo cultivation, and also started a small meat processing business with his friend. He would occasionally help his mother Hilary to run the family business. Alex is described as being gracious, kind, funny, brilliant, generous, gentle at any fault, and incredibly loving. His own sister would say he was quite gentle, easygoing. He'd never be cross with anyone. If you were cross with him, he would give you a bear hug and that would settle the matter. To his mother, he was incredibly loving, very intelligent, clever, witty, funny. And to his father, he would describe him as being free-spirited, a person who would really seek out life to live it to the fullest without any barriers. So that's how Alex was described. Now let's get to the date of May 17th, 2012. Alex went out with his friends that night. He wanted to hang out and kind of unwind a little, just like any other young person out there. After a hard day's work, you definitely need time to rest. It was a Friday night, so they went to a nightclub, and there they were planning on staying through the night, until it was time to go back home again. Now the night went smoothly all up until 2 a.m. in the morning. Now those in the nightclub who saw Alex described him as behaving normally. He was in good health and that he was having a great time, and by 2 a.m. he was ready to go home. At around 2 a.m. he walked out of the club. It's unclear whether he was calling it a night and he was just waiting for someone, he walked out to wait for someone to pick him up, or he was taking a breather, or, taking a smoke break. Is unclear, but he walked out. He was seen out there talking with some friends right outside the nightclub. While out there, a police patrol car drove by the club, and at first it didn't stop. It actually drove past the club and then circled back and then stopped right outside the club. So police officers alighted and walked straight to where Alex and his friends were. They confronted them and then arrested them immediately. They were put in the car and driven to the police station. Now, according to the police, they had to arrest Alex that night because he was smoking something illegal, a substance which was illegal in Kenya, and he was smoking it. Not sure how they identified it. Not sure why they didn't even arrest the people in the club, other people in the club as well. But Alex and his friends, they were arrested, the ones who were out there. And they found on his person some pills and also a vial of a substance which is unknown. So according to the police, they were in the right. They said that he had something illegal or smoking something illegal, and they had to arrest him that night. So they took him to the police station, they booked him and placed him in a holding cell. Right away, Alexander's friends went to negotiate his release at the police station. They found Alex in good spirits. He was looking quite healthy, but he was locked in a cell. And this was around 4:15 a.m. The friends tried to get him released that early morning, but they failed. I'm not so sure why, but they were not able to get Alex out. So they left, planning to return on later. So they came back and tried to negotiate his release again at 7:45 a.m. But they were not able to again. This is the second time that his release is actually being denied. I'm not so sure what they were planning to do with him. Were they planning to arraign him in court? I'm not sure. But he was not released at 7:45 a.m. And when the friends were leaving, they said that they could see the top of his head through his cell and his cell window, and his hands were resting on the bars, meaning he was standing up. But that's the last time that actually Alexander is seen in good health, that he was quite okay at 7:45 a.m. Now, between 7:45 a.m. and 10:30 a.m., nobody knows what really happened to Alex. The police say that he fell ill and they had to, take him. They rushed him to hospital essentially. But this would be disputed by the friends. They said that at 10:30 a.m. when they returned to the police station, they found Alex lying unconscious and unattended behind the police station counter. And the friends say that initially the police didn't want to take him to the hospital, and they had to beg them for them to allow them to take Alex to the hospital. So eventually they agreed and they took him to hospital. Now, by the time he was taken to the hospital, he had been unconscious for up to 90 minutes. Now, that's quite a long time. He was unattended, just lying at the police counter. I mean, I'm not sure what the protocol is when somebody falls ill when they're in a holding cell but they should have tried to even resuscitate him or try to do something to help him at least, up to 90 minutes. He was unconscious. That's quite a long time, isn't it? Now, when they arrived at the hospital, another drama here, another twist. Police told the doctors that Alexander was dangerous and aggressive and that he was suffering from a drug overdose. And the doctors started working on the premise that they're treating a patient who is under the influence of some substance. Now, I just don't know why the police had to share this information with the doctors that he was aggressive, because he was unconscious, and clearly unconscious is not responding. Why would they say that he was aggressive? I'm not sure what they were trying to do here. And they didn't. Later, when we come to find out that they really didn't provide the correct information to the doctors about his condition, because the doctors are working on him, thinking that they're treating an overdose patient, So he was not really looked at. They're not treating anything else. They're just trying to treat that. They're trying to treat the drug overdose. So this would definitely be really significant in how the events turned out. Hillary got a call informing her of Alexander's condition, and she rushed to the hospital. When she got there to the room where Alex was being held, they saw 3 officers right outside the door. And when she went in, it's incredibly distressing and upsetting here. She had to see her son lying there, unconscious, handcuffed to the bed. She rushed to his side and she would stay there until his final moments. She would later say that she stayed with him for an hour, and after that he would pass away right in her arms. It's incredibly sad, and I'm really sorry to the family that they had to go through that. And what's really heartbreaking here is that during his final moments, that 1 hour to his passing, the police never once removed the handcuffs. The doctors actually had to come and ask them to remove it so that they could work on Alex. So up to his last moments, he was handcuffed to a bed. I mean, that's incredibly inhumane. And he wasn't going to run away. He's unconscious. For heaven's sake, there are 3 police officers outside. His mother's, right next to him. He wasn't going to go anywhere. But they never cared. They handcuffed him to the bed. The doctors tried their hardest, but they were not able to save Alex that day. So it's been a roller coaster. It's been 2 a.m. He was arrested. 4 a.m. booked into the police station. 4:15 a.m. he's seen that he's doing well and okay, is in a cell. And 7:45 he's okay. He's standing up in his cell. 7:45 to 10:30. Nobody knows what happened to Alex. 10:30, rushed to the hospital, and after an hour, he's dead. That's something definitely doesn't add up. Like, how could he go from being just a healthy person and in such a short period of time he's dead by the morning? Something's there. And the family got suspicious because, he's fine that morning, and then 2 hours later he was in the hospital. They knew something definitely was up and wanted his case looked at. So an autopsy was underway. This is what it revealed. Now, 2 independent autopsy results revealed that Alexander died of blunt force trauma to the head and not a drug overdose. He also had an injury to his hand and his genital area. Now, the injury to his hand suggested that he was trying to defend himself from kicks and blows. That's what the autopsy results said. Now, this turned the whole case around because he has an injury to his hand. Okay, he left the bar, he left the nightclub, he was okay. But then again, he has an injury to his hand, and then he has blunt force trauma. So what really happened to Alex that, morning all the way up to 10:30 in the morning? What really happened to Alex? That was the question. And this turned the whole case around because the police were advancing the idea, drug overdose. This was not the case. This wasn't really the case because the autopsy clearly showed that blunt force trauma to his head, that's what caused his death. Even a police spokesperson confirmed that the post-mortem results found that Alex had died of blunt force trauma, so they accepted this. But he denied that the, arresting officers and those at DNE were ever involved. He acknowledged that he died of blunt force trauma to the head, but he then again kind of shields his officers in saying that they were not involved. So what really happened? There wasn't a fight in the nightclub that could say, probably somebody hit him or something. There is this difference, this gap between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. when he's booked into the holding cell and all the way up to 10:30. Something happened in between that caused the blunt force trauma to the head, isn't it? So the police spokesman clearly said, this is what they say, and I'm quoting here. Our officers heard strange noises coming from his cell, and when they entered inside, the man was on the floor choking. They claimed, to have rushed him to the hospital and that doctors failed to resuscitate him. Essentially, to them, he died, to the police officers, he died at the hands of the doctors. Now, they're shifting blame from a drug overdose to the doctors who failed to resuscitate him, back to life. Now, after the autopsy results came out, the family and the police, were involved in this kind of back and forth. The family saying that the police assaulted Alex, and that led to, that is what led to his death. So the family acknowledged that Alexander had a drug problem, and they didn't even try to hide it. They said Alexander had a problem. He had a problem at one point, but he had gone through a great deal of suffering to sort himself out. So they didn't, try to hide the fact that he had a drug problem before. But they're saying, what they're disputing is not that he had a drug problem. They're disputing the fact that that night, the drug overdose is what killed him, because the autopsy results clearly showed that Alex was hit by something, blunt force trauma to the head. So that's not what an overdose would do to someone. They were trying, as much as the police were trying to throw Alex under the bus, saying that he died of this overdose, the family were clear. They said that he had a drug problem. Possibly that night he could have been, using drugs, but that's not clearly what killed him. What killed him is, trauma to the head. That's what killed him. So the police kept denying this, and there was that back and forth with the family. The police were denying, saying that, essentially they were putting blame on either the drug overdose or the doctors failing to attend to him when he got to the hospital. Mind you, when he got to the hospital, it was the police who told them that, who told the doctors that he was under some substance, and that's what the doctors were looking for. If they'd provided the right information, Alexander would have been looked at, possibly his injury would have been attended to and he could be alive today. But the police misled or gave the wrong information to the doctors there. But I do agree that also some blame should fall to the doctors as well, because when he was brought into the hospital, they should have run all sorts of tests to see what was really causing him to be unconscious. Definitely you'd work on that premise, but I feel like you should do all sorts of tests to ensure that you're actually treating the right thing, isn't it? Definitely a little bit of blame goes there, but then again they were misled, so I can't really hold that on them. Now, because the family were quite suspicious, they demanded an inquest, right after the autopsy results were out and it was revealed that he died of an injury to the head. They demanded an inquest because there was something quite suspicious. What were the police not telling the rest of Kenya and, the family? So the investigation took off right away, but eventually it ended up dragging, because you're trying to find police officers trying to investigate their own police. Quite the drama there, quite the twist there. So because it dragged a lot, this to the family seemed as a cover-up, because the police officers who were there remained working, and as much as the investigation was going on, it seemed as if no action was really being taken, so it dragged on. But they never gave up their fight for justice. They were resilient, and during the investigation a lot of things came out. There were claims that there was, witness interference. They were trying to interfere with the witnesses who were there. I did later emerge that the cell where Alexander was held in had 6 other people in it, 6 other inmates in it. So there were witnesses there as much as the police were there as well. So there were allegations that there was that witnesses were being threatened. And to add on to that, about witnesses being threatened, there was this one event which Hilary Martin found odd. So just some random day, a group of men claiming to be police officers arrived at her home. She wasn't at home, and nobody was at home. It was only Cook who was there, and one of the men showed the cook a police ID, but the others refused to show any identification. They said they were there to investigate the disappearance of an iPad, and this was quite odd to Hilary at the time, because they didn't have any guests at that time. No guests were over, so how could an iPad disappear unless she was the one who reported it? But they were there claiming that they were looking for an iPad, which is kind of really suspicious. What were they really trying to do there? It seemed rather sinister to Hilary, because what was their real intention that day at Hilary's house? Investigating an iPad, and nobody is there to report it missing, and an iPad of all the things. And did they even actually find the iPad in the long run? I mean, for me it sounds rather maybe they were trying to kind of show her that we're in charge and you can't do anything about it, possibly trying to get her to drop the case against their their station. But I don't know. This is just theories out there. Please don't come for me. So 5 police officers were identified and questioned, but none of them were suspended during that time. They were just transferred. Eventually, as the investigation went on, they were just transferred to the station. Another bit that came out during that investigation is that the family claimed that Alex was pressured to sign a false confession that was already prepared. So the theory they worked with is that Alex was being pressured by the police and to sign this false confession letter, but he refused, and that's why he was assaulted. Essentially, he was being tortured in order for him to sign the statement, but he refused, and the torture went on, and it's what eventually led to his death. That's the theory they were working on, but it's not confirmed here. So that's another theory that came out, during the investigation. Now, the investigation into Alex's death would drag on for 10 years, much to the frustration of the family and Kenyans as well. But eventually it would go to court after such a long time. 4 police officers were identified and charged with Alexander's passing. One was Naftali Chege, Charles Wangombe, Baraka Bulima, and John Pamba. During their trial, witnesses would describe what really happened to Alex that night. They said that Alexander was brought to the cells at around 4 a.m. where, the 6 others were already. And he complained, after some time, he complained that he was hot and asked to be moved out of the cells. Now, it's unclear here whether he was moved out or not, but after he fell unconscious, the other inmates helped move him to where he would be later be found by friends and family. He was given breakfast, but he didn't take it. So that's what they said in there. And it's unclear here as well whether the police actually were seen by the other inmates abusing Alexander, whether the other witnesses saw the police torturing Alexander. So it's not really clear there, but there's this time frame, as I said earlier, there's this time frame between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. when he's actually booked. Something there during maybe their transport, I don't know, but there is a time frame that is unaccounted for. And also between 7:45 and 10:30 a.m. what really happened during that window that caused him to have that injury on his head. So it's not clear there. So eventually it got to their sentencing, and each got different terms to serve, and they had some years suspended. Charlie Chege got 15 years, Ismail Baraka got 9 years, John Pamba got 12 years, and Charles Wangombe got 12 years. The judge would state that the drugs were planted on him as a cover-up. So they were not even on him, they were planted there to throw anyone off who would want to investigate what really happened to Alexander. Now, it's unclear why the policemen did this and why they tortured Alexander to death. I don't know why they would do this. Were they asking for money, bribes, or did he refuse to sign the statement? I mean, why would they, assault him? What did he do, And remember, Alexander, was described as a very easygoing person. He wasn't aggressive. So I don't know why they would, beat him up to the point where he actually lost his life. I don't know why they did that. So those were the sentences there. The father said that he wished that the sentences would have been longer, and the mother said that she felt like justice had been served and that it should teach the police, that human life is valuable, essentially. So that's what happened. An awful case, and we really have to ask ourselves, for how long are we going to allow them to get away with this? If I remember correctly, the Kianjakoma brothers case, is quite recent, and it's quite similar to Alexander's case. Are we really going to let them get away? I mean, when are we going to say that enough is enough, we're taking our power back? They're supposed to be protecting us, not oppressing us. So sit down a little with the story, think on it for quite a while. And, if you're out there, if you see someone abusing, their power, please do report it. There are resources, there are numbers there you can call the police. If you see another police officer abusing another person, there are numbers there you can call. So do not sit with this and just stay there. Do not sit with this. Do not see this as just another story. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed urgently.